What's up, everybody? Welcome back to DMW Sports. We are here with another NFL season preview into our top 12 teams here with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers checking in at number 12 on our power rankings. Happy to be talking to you guys today. Hope that everything is going well. I'm interested to talk about this team. And as far as this team direction is concerned, I would say that it's called a long bridge for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I know that sounds kind of weird to put it that way, but I feel like they are not necessarily on a treadmill because I think that they are considerably like small, like making incremental steps to get better. But it does feel like the guy that they have a head coach and quarterback are more bridge people than they are necessarily your franchise guys. So we'll get a little bit into that a little bit later on. As far as the head coach and the front office is concerned, Todd Bowles, in my opinion, is a B-level coach. I think that he is good in the National Football League. Again, the way that he continues to kind of keep this team together, even despite some of the injury issues that they have faced on a consistent basis, has been impressive. And I think the secondary part of it is that the ways in which he can coach up the defense is very helpful. Do I think that it's an elite level defensive coach? I think that there's a little bit of question marks as far as that is concerned. He's still very good on that side of the ball, and I think he helps. But ultimately, a solid to good head coach in the National Football League is Todd Bowles, and the resume has spoke for himself for the ability to continue to keep this team having winning seasons at the top of this NFC South as well. As far as the front office, I think this is a big piece of it as well. I actually give them a B plus. I think that they have done a really solid job at being able to restock this roster with some young talent that makes a lot of sense, and then while also finding guys like a Baker Mayfield to fill in accordingly and keeping their veterans within tow as well. So I would say that I have some maybe some misgivings about certain positions for the Buccaneers, but I do think that they've done a good job at being able to supplement this roster, the veterans that they already had, with some young guys that make a lot of sense for their team. So that I think are fair grades. Todd Bowles gets a B. Front office gets a B plus. With that being said, let's talk about this offseason review for the Buccaneers. Let's talk about this offseason review. As far as the subtractions for the Buccaneers are concerned, Robert Haynes, he moves on, who's a solid, I have to say a competent center for them for a few years. And then Shaq Barrett, who obviously has been with the team for a long time, signed the extension, kind of didn't necessarily live up to that, had injuries as well that kind of sapped his ability as an edge rusher. Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, somebody that never really fit well into what they were trying to do scheme-wise, and ultimately he's moving on to a different type of even front scheme from obviously Todd Bowles' more odd front scheme. And then Mike Edwards, veteran safety, kind of saw that he was a little bit over the hill. That's why he got ultimately, cut last year. Jordan Whitehead also lost from the safety room, so a little bit of thinness as far as that aspect is concerned. However, they did bring in some guys to try and supplement it, given the fact that Winfield did miss a lot of last year. So, and those are two examples of it. Additions: HASSAN Reddick, given a nice solid deal to come in and be a veteran presence again as far as rushing the passer as outside linebacker is concerned. Charlie Heck brought in for offensive tackle depth, and then Riley Dixon also brought in to be a punter. Not too many crazy free agent signings for this team as well. And then as far as the draft is concerned, EGBUKA, I thought was a really good wide receiver prospect, somebody that's going to step in day one, can be a wide receiver too, really in any scheme and any offense for what you ask him to do. And I think pairs very well for what Mike Evans brings to the table. Benjamin Morrison, who I thought at Notre Dame had a lot of talent. Again, a little bit more of a sticky man-to-man coverage corner. And we'll see certainly, as far as some of the question marks as far as his size, how that ends up translating. Jacob Parrish, a guy at a K-State that plays the nickel, in my opinion, at a really high level, and I really like watching play. He jumped out a lot, I will say, as far as the tape was concerned. So I'm kind of interested to see how much they use him, how Todd Bowles wants to have him get after him. He's one of those guys where you can have him blitz off the edge and he can really wreak some havoc as far as the game is concerned. David Walker, outside linebacker type, unfortunately going to start the year. Unfortunately going to start the year on IR. There it is. That's what I was looking for. Elijah Roberts, that unfortunately is a typo there. Defensive end, adding to the depth as far as that room is concerned. And then Tez Johnson out of Oregon, slight of build, went late in the draft as a result of it. Give you some special teams return value, and we'll see as far as him developing as a wide receiver. So with that being said, the expectations for this team kind of put out in front of you. I do think that this team, expectations wise, should be expected to again win the NFC South. can you expect him to win a playoff game? I can't say that any of these moves really scream at me that, yeah, you need to be in the division round for you to justify these things. I don't think that they have overextended themselves or gone too far in that direction. As argument given the head coach and the quarterback aspect of it, I think is fair. But outside of that, I can't say that they're really expected to go to the divisional round. But win the division again, I would say that's a fair expectation. With that being said, let's take a look at Mr. Baker Mayfield. Well, I think one of the things for me is observing Baker Mayfield has always been, can he be able to operate very well under pressure? And I think that he actually did a pretty solid job at getting better from that aspect of it. I don't think he's ever going to be a significant sack negator or avoider. That's just something that's not necessarily in his ability. He has the function to be able to a little bit mobility as far as within the pocket and getting out of the pocket, but he is still prone to taking those sacks. However, I thought he had better answers versus pressure on a consistent basis, was more willing to hang in there and show off that arm talent as well. And so, as far as his quarterback ranking, I'm 13th in the league. A good, above average, a little bit more than above average, a good quarterback in the National Football League. And obviously, a 40 touchdown season, obviously, puts a lot as far as what he was able to do. A lot of it was necessary given the defense struggles that the Bucs ended up having too. I think he's taken full advantage of being able to be around Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. And I think he's actually mitigated some of those things that they had even during injuries as well. So I like what Baker Mayfield has been able to do for the Bucs. Again, the extended bridge aspect kind of does apply to him. He doesn't feel like a true franchise quarterback, obviously difference maker, but he also isn't bad enough that you're looking to try and get rid of him because he continues to produce too. So the combination of both kind of just puts it in a little bit of a weird space. But for right now, Baker continues to give the Buccaneers good quarterback play, and I expect that to continue to happen, especially given the ways in which they continue to invest within the weapon room. So shout out to Baker Mayfield, really productive season last year, and I expect it to continue again for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Let's get to that roster around him. So, as far as the offense surrounding Baker Mayfield, I think you got to tip your cap to what they're able to bring to the table on a consistent basis. And look, there was a scare earlier in the offseason, obviously with the Tristan Wirfs injury. You never know how long that may end up taking him out. But the tackle situation here is a big piece of the infrastructure right here, because I think Luke Gadecki has continued to improve as far as a right tackle position. And in my personal opinion, we'll talk about Tristan Wirfs. I think he is awesome at the left tackle position as well. The question mark is, hey, can you continue to add to the interior offensive line room? I thought Cody Malk has shown well. Grant Barton was an excellent pick for them to come in and solidify that center room. And Ben Bresden, we'll see as he continues to develop as well. So I like this offensive line. Would I say it's an elite one? No, but I think it is a very good one. And it's where it needs to be once Tristan Wirfs is healthy and right. We'll see if he ends up back for week one. It's certainly a question mark right now. Speaking of healthy and right for week one, it doesn't appear that that's going to happen for Chris Godwin. It seems like he's going to be at least out a month, maybe even more. But lo and behold, Mr. EGBUKA is here to quote unquote save the day, or at least stem the tide. Next to Mike Evans, I think this is going to be a really nice wide receiver pairing early on. I think EMEKA was a guy that was ready made to come out of college, out of Ohio State, which is a wide receiver factory to say the least, obviously, and be able to, from day one, to come in and provide Baker Mayfield the outlets necessary to go with what Mike Evans brings to the table and create an explosive. So we'll talk about that a little bit later on. Again, Tez Johnson and Sterling Shepard, more of that depth on the inside. I actually thought Sterling Shepard showed a little bit more juice than I thought he had in the tank last year. So a useful depth wide receiver. Ryan Miller, we'll see as far as that aspect is concerned. Unfortunately, Jalen McMillan did end up getting hurt, who was another guy that flashed within this wide receiver room as well. Tight end, Cade Otton, a serviceable, if not, solid tight end. I wouldn't say it's anything special. Big body target, can block in line. When you usually have the complement of wide receivers that the Bucs will be able to put out there, it makes a lot of sense to live in 11 personnel, and it works certainly for what their scheme brings to the table. Teddy Bridgewater brought into the backup quarterback as well. Tip of the cap to Teddy Bridgewater, by the way, for being able to take care of some of his hometown kids, and unfortunately got people being nonsensical about what that entire situation, in my personal opinion. But all that being aside, running back room, Bucky Irving, in my opinion, emerged as one of the better running backs in the National Football League, a top 10 guy, obviously a really good fantasy option for a lot of guys. I expect that to continue. I think Rashard White and Sean Tucker both provide useful backups if something does happen. A little bit of different skill sets for both of them, and I think it makes sense as far as rounding out this running back room. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get on over to the defense. So as far as his defense is concerned, I think it's interesting to talk about again with Shaq Barrett moving on, again bringing in Hassan Reddick, where this pass rush is going to net out at. Obviously, Vita Vea, the mainstay nose tackle inside, still one of the best in the business at being just an unmovable object, is still moving a little bit quicker for his size. That really should not be allowed. Logan Hall and KALIJAH Kancey, two guys, or at least KALIJAH Kancey, we'll talk about a little bit later on. But again, the defensive end room, I think, is fine with a little bit of room for improvement for more based on how these guys develop. Elijah Roberts adding a little bit more depth as a fifth round pick as well. Again, Hassan Reddick comes in as an outside linebacker to go opposite of Yaya Diaby, who's somebody that I think has showed some signs of real development as a 2023 day two pick. I like what he brings to the table. I like the pairing because Diaby plays with a little bit more power. Hassan Reddick is somebody that I think can go speed or power. It just depends on where he's at, given the fact that he was a complete non-factor last year. Is he suddenly going to turn it back on, or is he over the hill as far as a veteran? That's going to be something to watch early on in the season. Linebacker room, Levante David, just the mainstay of this linebacker room, is just not going anywhere. They added kind of Servasia Dennis. They added Deion Jones. We'll see, as far as can he get the guy next to Levante David to be better. That's going to be a real question mark. Servasia Dennis is an awesome name, so if it is him, that's going to be kind of fun. We'll see. And then the cornerback room is a real question mark. Zion McCollum is a height, weight, speed corner that I think showed flashes, but just not even close to consistency that you need. Jamel Dean has consistently been beaten, in my opinion, as a cornerback. And then Jacob Harris, like I said, out of the nickel, shows a lot of potential and is going to be a very interesting weapon for Todd Bowles to use in the blitz scheme as well. And then Benjamin Morrison, obviously hurt right now. When he comes back, what he can provide to the cornerback room is going to be something to watch. Antoine Winfield Jr., in my opinion, when healthy, still the best safety in the National Football League. Again, depends on what you want. Kyle Hamilton, well earned to be able to say that he is the best as far as that is concerned too, and more versatile too. But I do think I do think really highly of Antoine Winfield in that respects. Tyreek Smith, there is a little bit of question mark of who's going to be pairing with him in that strong safety position too. So with that being said, just looking at these guys, I think that the offense is ahead of the defense, and obviously that played out last year. Give the offense a B plus, and I think the defense more of a C. Is middle of the pack. And again, if the young guys kind of develop, if Hassan Reddick as a veteran can come in and really help out this pass rush, then you're talking about, hey, we can move it to higher. But for right now, I think leaving him at the C is fine. With that being said, let's get to my first breakout player, KALIJAH Kancey, out of Pittsburgh, a guy that I liked a lot as either kind of an odd front defensive end type or a real true three tech. And I think that he showed that pass rush ability that really flashed on tape on a consistent basis to make him a day two pick. Now the question mark is, can he get a little bit more consistent versus the run? And I think that that's a maturity aspect that certainly can a little bit more discipline as far as his game is concerned. But I still think that he brings the violent hands, the ability to be quick within kind of a phone booth that you want as far as either a three tech / runner weapon, or really, a guy that's going to line up at that 4-eye too. So like, I like what he brings to the table, and I want to see him continue to develop really to be a true 3-down player. But that's why he's my breakout player. If he does that and what he could bring from a pass rush to perspective, then I think you're talking about a really dangerous guy on the inside. So that's why KALIJAH Kancey is my breakout player for this defensive line. And like I said, they really could use it given some of the secondary question marks and the fact that this pass rush is kind of searching for that next thing to really step up too. So with that being said, let's get to what's got me excited to watch the Buccaneers this year. As far as what's got me excited to watch the Buccaneers, man, it comes down to what this offense is going to kind of look like early on. And I know, again, these are some Chris Godwin clips of him kind of being in the slot and Baker Mayfield being able to get the ball out quickly on time to him. A little bit of screen design that was really excellent from Liam Cohen last year. We're going to see how much of that can really carry over as well. And that extends, obviously, to the Bucky Irving usage. But I think it's a really important thing to emphasize to be able to use EMEKA EGBUKA in the ways to get the ball in his hands quickly. EMEKA has the ability to play inside or out and be able to beat man coverage, settle down his zone, understand those aspects of it. He is ahead of his time as far as a rookie in that standpoint, and that's the veteran presence that Godwin already, kind of showed. Now the question mark is going to be, hey, can we put this kid in a position from day one to succeed? And I think they can. I think EMEKA EGBUKA is that good of a player, and I think he is underrated as far as having the ball in his hands and create yards after the catch. So I'm excited to see this early on of Mike Evans and EMEKA EGBUKA while they work Chris Godwin back in, and eventually what that trio looks like is going to be fun to watch for the Bucs. Let's get to my concern. So my concern lies with this cornerback room. Like I talked about, Zion McCullough is kind of the face of it. Again, a height, weight, speed type of cornerback that's continued to get better, but again, more flashes than really consistency that you're going to be asking for. And I think a lot is going to be placed on the plate, especially if the defensive line really doesn't step up. Again, I like the weapon that Jacob Harris could present for Todd Bowles as far as playing that nickel back position specifically. The second safety outside Antoine Winfield Jr., who I think very highly of on the back end, is going to be a question mark. Winfield fortunately can erase a lot of things on the back end, so that hopefully will help them avoid some really explosive plays. But there was a lot of aspects of this team that was just trying to keep an umbrella on for a lot of the year and allowing a lot of stuff underneath. They're going to have to challenge these guys a little bit more if they really want to get away with that stuff, especially for what Todd Bowles' blitzing scheme is going to look like. So that's going to be a question mark for me, what the cornerback room can develop into. And obviously, Benjamin Morrison coming back healthy is going to be a piece of that too. So let's go ahead and get to my hot take. I'll be honest, it does hurt to put this on the screen. I will not lie to you guys one bit. I am a Chiefs fan, and I make no bones about this. Obviously, this one hurt, and it hurt even more. I would say the fact that we never really stood a chance from the offensive line perspective. But the point of me putting this on the screen, which of course the Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski here pictured, is to say that I think the Buccaneers have done an excellent job at pretty much trying to transition out of their Super Bowl contention window, especially for the fact that they really went all in on the Super Bowl window contention from that aspect of it. And I think that you see some of the more recent examples, like the Eagles really had to take a real dip down after their 2017 run. I would say that the Buccaneers are a more all-in example than maybe that 2017 Eagles team would be. You talk about the Rams, I think they've done an all right job, but they haven't necessarily gotten out of their window since Stafford is still there as well. So I think that they've done a good job, again, replenishing the roster with young, cheap talent to be able to come up in those aspects of it, understanding what veterans to keep, what veterans to let go too, has been a big key of it for this Buccaneers team. So a tip of the cap to the Buccaneers front office as far as that is concerned. With that being said, let's get to my predictions. So my bold prediction for the 2025 Buccaneers has to go with Mr. KALIJAH KANCEY. I think that he ends up leading this team in sacks. He's the guy that best is positioned, in my opinion, to really step up. Could they have more Yaya Diaby? Absolutely. Obviously, they could have HASSAN REDDICK as that veteran presence step up too, maybe a little bit of Elijah Roberts. But I think he is in position, KALIJAH KANCEY, to really take advantage of what is already a really good pass rush ability and then be able to become more consistent against the run and be on the field more often too, and take advantage of it. So that is my bold prediction. As far as the record is concerned, I have the Buccaneers going 10-7 and winning this division. Again, the worst, kind of thing where I truly do believe that Tristan Wirfs is the best tackle in the National Football League, point blank, period, which you see on him on the right or left side, which is insane to say. But that scared me a little bit. Godwin being hurt, a little bit concerned. I was a little bit, maybe the Falcons here. And then the Falcons lost Caleb McGarry. And I was like, I think it's going to be reliable as far as the Buccaneers in the NFC South. So NFC South once again, goes through Tampa Bay, and we'll see. Hopefully that they end up coming through. And when this wide receiver trio comes back, I think the offense is certainly going to be fun to watch with them, Bucky, and led by Baker. So thank you guys so much for coming by to the 2025 Buccaneers NFL season preview. Again, like the video, be able to watch the other ones on the channel here at DMW Sports. We're on DMW Sports at Twitter and TikTok, and Sports DMW on Instagram. Appreciate you guys so much. Hope you guys have a great day.